Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to share my guest with you today. My guest is Laura Beauparlant. Laura, I have known for many years. She has been my client. I have been her client. We have worked together and played together in many different venues. And she is an absolute expert in branding. In fact, I would call her a thought leader. What Laura does, she is the creator of the concept of legacy branding, and she has written a book called Creating Brand Chemistry. She's an author, an international speaker, a brand alchemist, and the founder and creative director of Lab Creative. She's an expert in branding and specifically on helping entrepreneurs find their legacy brand. She helps us to understand how our core values and the values that we bring forward in our business align so that we're creating the impact and the purpose that we want to create. Now, for those of you who follow me, you may have recently seen brands show up around, and I think it might even still be on screen, my own personal brand. And Laura was the architect and the alchemist behind that. So Laura, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Andrea. I'm so excited to be here and for you to be showing off the new brand that we created for you as well. And we're so matchy. I love how we're both
we're pink, and you can see we're both pretty vibrant people. And I think that's one of the things that, when we think about branding, whether you're vibrant or it's not about the colors you use, but it's about the consistency. And, as you look around, you are seeing, for me, the vibrancy is important. And so that was captured so beautifully in my brand. But Laura, I know that you've done many things in your career. And, when we worked together initially, we were working on one of your keynotes around brand chemistry. And I learned the story of you and how you built Lab Creative. And before Lab Creative, there was a whole other brand. And so branding is one of those things that not only is about how we show up in the world, but about the creations we have. And I would love to hear from you about this concept, first of all, of legacy branding and tying it to Lab Creative and your previous company. And how did you know, or do you know, that this brand that you have today is a legacy brand for you, and help our listeners understand what that is? And how did you know that your last company maybe wasn't?
Okay. Such great, juicy topics. Okay. Let's start with that first part, which is, really what is, a personal or a business legacy brand. And, they may show up slightly different, but let me just chat through and explain how I see it. So the idea of a legacy brand, as I said, whether it's personal or business, it's about starting with the impact that you want to have. And really the work that lights you up, the clients you love working with, the work you get lost in, the work that's almost easy to you because it just comes so naturally. That's that living and working in your zone of genius. And then building a business and a brand around that, right? Then you reverse engineer the business and the brand you build, because you're starting with that end in mind. You're like, what is the impact I want to have? Who do I want to have that impact on? What am I here to do? It's looking at, what is my purpose? I know that's often thrown around, but it's important. And it is. And that ties into what I'll share about my previous business and then Lab Creative, but I'll get there in a minute. But it's looking at, what is that difference you want to make? How do you want to be known and remembered? How do you want to live and work? And I believe that we have to do that inner work, right? That deep inner work. To me, this is not about being selfless. In fact, I don't even, as you know, in my new talk, I want to rewrite the definition of the word selfish and get rid of the word selfless, because that's something I definitely would not want my legacy to be, that I was somebody to call me selfless. But when I say selfish, it's getting clear on, what is that mark you want to have? How do I want to live my life? How do I want to work? Because when I get clear on that, then I can have an even bigger impact because I'm living in alignment with that.
Mhm.
So that's what I really believe is starting with that idea of the impact, that ripple effect that you want to have. And it will be different for everybody. But ultimately, you start there and then you build the brand around it.
Mhm. And so
So,
your last business, it sounds like maybe didn't follow that.
no, and honestly, I mean, I love that business for years. It was in the wedding industry. I love, like, so it aligned with me in so many ways. I got to use my creativity. I really helped shape the industry. I had a wedding stationery business, and I loved it until I didn't. And what really shifted, I had an epiphany, and there's a whole backstory to it, which I don't need to go into, but um, I knew that the work I was doing didn't matter, and it wasn't important. It wasn't my purpose. I just felt
Mm,
like this is not the thing that I want to be remembered for. Right. So
right,
if it was
right.
thinking about it in that respect, in terms of, you know, at my funeral, what would I want people to be saying about me? And it was definitely not that I helped address their wedding envelopes.
Right.
So I just had this moment that I thought, no, this is not why I'm here. And that led to, a bit of an existential crisis of identity. Who am I if I'm no
Yeah.
longer that person? My identity was so tied into that business. It was who I was. And if I wasn't doing that, what was I doing and who was I? So again, the deep work was required. And I had to go on this journey and really understand, how do people see me? What do they see? We're too close to ourselves, just like we've talked about this. I'm too close to my own brand. You're too close to your own brand. We can't see what other people see.
No.
And so I had to understand the gifts that I bring to the world that I couldn't see for myself.
I think you're bringing up so many important points, and I want to come back to them. And before I do, I just want to also say to our listeners, if you have any questions, please make sure to drop them into the comments below, and we'll make sure to answer those. So we want to bring
Absolutely.
you into this conversation because it's a juicy conversation and an important one. So I want to go back to this idea, as an entrepreneur in the wedding industry. I mean, I guess we could all argue that, look, weddings are really important moments in people's lives. And so there are things about that. And you were, in fact, making an impact probably for people. However, it wasn't the impact that you wanted to leave as a legacy. That was the important thing. And so when you looked at it, as you said, like, addressing wedding envelopes was really at the end of the day, not the thing that was going to, light you up and bring you forward. And I know in terms of the work that we did together, what you did was you asked me really pointed questions that helped me to articulate my purpose. We came up with this tagline for me that really challenged me, and I remember
Yep.
when you came up with thought provoker as a tagline, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so confrontational. Am I confrontational? And yet at the same time, you were 100% right. And what was beautiful about the work that you did on helping me, and I know the work that you do in helping so many others entrepreneurs and to be able to find that purpose, is that you act as the external mirror. And I've heard this analogy a couple of times this week, so I'm going to use it. As entrepreneurs and as brands, really, we all live inside of a bottle. We live inside of
Mhm.
think of it almost as a medicine bottle. And the instructions are on the outside of the bottle. I can't read them.
No,
I need
can't read
somebody
the
else
label
to
when
read
you're
them.
inside the bottle.
No. And that's what I think you do so beautifully. So as you think about that concept of us, inside the bottle, you on the outside, helping us to find that purpose. Um, what is it that you're doing with entrepreneurs in terms of being able to pull that out of them? How do you do that? How do you pull that purpose out of them so that, like what happened for me, where I had to really think about thought provoker, you give them something that innately feels true, but maybe is something that was unsayable for them?
Mm, you I couldn't have said it better myself. That honestly is, and it took me a while to understand that this was my gift. Like that was hearing other people's perception of what I do was so impactful for me to go, oh, I do that. Like, is that important? Is that a big deal? Because the things that are easy, we almost assume is easy for everybody. And that is not the
Absolutely.
case. So in that journey of doing this, I was challenged to think deeper about myself, about like, well, do you do this? And do you do this? And I was like, no, I'm just a designer. And because I'm like, well, I don't have the formal education. I don't have this. I can't call myself a brand strategist. I don't blah, 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 right? Like the imposter syndrome rears its ugly head. And then I realized in being challenged, it's like, well, I am actually good at this. I just don't have a formalized way of doing it. And so I set to work to create Brand Camp, which is my branding methodology, and which I took you through. And so I formalized it, and there is a system, but there's also magic in it, right? It's an art
Mhm.
and a science. And that is the beautiful thing when you think about anything, right? Lab Creative, it is to me the mixture of art and science coming together.
Yeah.
So I have a formula, and it is my innate ability, my gift, my zone of genius to just see people and see things that they can't see for themselves. And it's usually a little uncomfortable. Like the way you describe that feeling, like, "Ugh," I always say if it makes you feel excited, but also like you want to throw up, we're onto something.
Yeah.
And that is something that is a gift that I have. In fact, I was on a call with a client last week. We're about halfway through our brand camp sessions. We've been working together for 3.5 hours, and I have this recorded. And he said, you need to share this. He said, we've been working together for 3.5 hours, and you understand me better than I even understand myself. And you were able to summarize that in like 1 to 2 sentences. And he was just blown away in such a short time. And I'm like, it took me a long time to really understand that that is a gift that I have.
Yeah.
And so transitioning into Lab Creative and this work, this feels much more in alignment with the legacy work that I'm doing, because to me, I want entrepreneurs to be creating a brand that is in alignment with them, that is playing big, that is allowing them to have the impact that they want. So to me, the more people I can help see the magic that they offer the world and build a brand around it, then we all create this beautiful ripple effect.
You know, we started this off by talking about this concept of a legacy brand. And just hearing you talk about, the concept of, listening to somebody deeply, hearing them, connecting with them, and in that process, being able to see them in a way that they don't even see themselves. That's powerful. When we take that to a legacy brand, so brands are our business. Brands are the things that we put out into the world. Now, I'm putting my personal brand out there. It's me, but I also have the Talk Boutique brand, and I have, the Thought Leader Academy brand.
Yeah.
As we start to think about this concept of legacy brand, first of all, how do we differentiate between the brands we create as a company and the legacy that we're leaving behind in the world? And is there a difference, or are they the same thing?
I think they're intertwined. I think you can have a personal legacy desire that is all of the outcomes of your business, right? It can be you're creating a world filled with thought leaders, right? Through
Mhm.
Thought Leader Academy, your personal work that you do through speaking, and all of the things that you're doing in your personal life and your personal brand, and then Talk Boutique. So to me, you can have your overarching idea of like, what is my personal legacy? When I'm gone, what do I want people to say about me?
Mhm.
At my funeral, as an example. Then you can look at each individual business and go, okay, what is the legacy of this business? What is
Mm.
that ripple effect, the impact? And so that's the reverse engineering. That's looking at, why did you create this business? A big part of the work that we do through Brand Camp that you've experienced is getting clear on why this business exists. What is the contribution it's making? What is the impact it is having? And to me, everything stems from that. That is the North Star. That becomes the guiding light for every decision that is then made inside the business. And so to me, that helps create that legacy. Now, it could be building a business that will create generational wealth. That can be legacy too, right? It could be some kind of environmental impact or social impact. Whatever that is, it will be somewhat personal to the founder who created it, but ultimately with a bigger goal in mind, usually for the business.
So as I hear that, what I'm hearing is, it takes me to the Simon Sinek start with why, right? Like it's
Yeah.
that idea of why. It's your why you're here. For me, I know that so much of the work that I do is centered around co-creating a future that's inclusive and sustainable so that we're all represented. As
Yeah.
opposed to the chosen few. And so everything I do is built around that. And so I came to that through many, many different ways. Part of it was, the work that I did through TED and the TEDx events and through Singularity. And some of it was just my own thinking and speaking. And, as I build and write my book right now, for those entrepreneurs who are in the process of building companies, and they may not have done that work. Do they need to go down the road of creating a personal brand to find it? Or can they find that in their own entrepreneurial organizations?
I mean, I think they can do both, right? So a business that isn't a person still needs a why. They still
Right.
need to understand what is that, because that helps attract the right employees. It helps attract the right clients. People want to work with people that they know, like, and trust, right? They want to work with businesses that they align with in values. So without that clarity on why this business exists, then you're not sending a clear message to people. So I think that's important.
Mhm.
And I work with a lot of founders who are developing a personal brand for a number of reasons. One, our personal brands are powerful. We have better reach on social media than our business brands do, and a lot of times we are so much more than that one thing. And I work with a lot of people thinking about selling their business or planning to sell it. And a lot of people end up in a crisis state when they sell their business because their whole identity was wrapped up in the business. So
It's
by
like where
helping them do what's
it's
that?
like where I was gonna say, it's like where you were at that first business.
Yeah, totally. You're like, who am I? Right. So I've been there. I understand it. So by getting clear on the common thread that links everything they do in their life and personal and business, whatever, getting clarity around that helps them with that next evolution of their personal brand. No matter what they do next, I always say to them, I don't necessarily care what you do or even how you do it, but it's why you're doing it. What is
Right.
that legacy? What is that purpose? And then as long as everything you do falls into something that fits with that, then it doesn't matter what you're doing as
Mhm.
long as it's in alignment. So it I suggest it's good to have a business legacy, brand, and understanding that and the why, and a personal one as well.
Mhm, and so it sounds like one of the things I think I'm hearing is that, if we're struggling with that why, like why do we do the things we do? And I know, like, I remember when I first heard the Simon Sinek start with why, and you kind of sit back and you go, why do I do what I do? And it's a hard question to answer for many, many people. But I guess what I'm hearing, especially for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, you can look at your business and you can get some indicators, some hints that might help you to really understand why you do what you do, because it's hidden inside of the business. Even if you haven't formally written it down or thought about it, you can start to look at where your passion lives. And inside of that passion is often an indicator of the why. Do I have that right? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's the why of the business of Lab Creative is intrinsically linked to why I do what I do. But my why is different, but yet in alignment, right? Like they go
Yeah,
together, they coexist, they overlap. But my whole why and legacy is not just in what my business delivers
right.
and creates, which I think is actually what's probably missing for most people, because their whole reason why and legacy gets tied up in their business. And that's where the existential crisis comes in, because you can't separate yourself from the business. So by having a clear understanding of like, this is one aspect or one pillar of what I'm doing here in this world, it helps you to create and kind of separate yourself a little bit from your
Mm.
business, which I think is important, because
Yeah,
we are not our business, right? We need to find a way to also exist without that and figure out who we are beyond it.
you know what I'm hearing you say is it like, and I love it. You know, I remember when I worked in the marketing world, and one of the things that used to come up a lot was we would be doing multimedia campaigns, and so we would be creating, advertising across all the various channels. And one of the biggest things was, creating a harmony across all the channels, but not the same thing. You're not just cookie cuttering it out, because what happens with that is people tune out to it. Yeah, it's important that you have consistency, but it's not about doing it the same way. And I think what you're saying here is, look, as humans, as individuals, we're multifaceted. And so the businesses we have often address one facet of who we are as a person, but there are many other facets. So needs to be the connection. The why can be that connection. But even within that connection, it's still might be just one face of that connection
Yeah.
versus, so I think that's important, that it's not like, oh, you're going to choose one why and that's the only thing you're ever going to talk about or ever do,
Yeah.
because that feels so restrictive, right?
Yeah. And it will change, right? I say your brand is a living, breathing thing. It will grow and it will change and it will morph. It shouldn't be changing every week or even every year. If you do it right, it should last you for a long time, and then you can evolve it, right? Unless
Mhm.
something dramatic changes. But ultimately, it's not a set it and forget it. It will evolve. And mine has evolved. This idea of legacy and legacy branding is newer to me and to this
Mhm.
business, but it was me coming to this realization that no matter what I'm doing, everything comes back to legacy, mine and yours.
Right.
And so whether I'm speaking and I'm delivering my keynote, which, a life worth dying for, which has nothing to do with branding, but everything to do with my legacy and the life I'm living and how I want to help other people live their big, bold, beautiful life. Or if I'm helping entrepreneurs with their business and building a brand and alignment that feels like it lights them up, that attracts the right clients, to me, it's all about, it all comes back to legacy. And
Mhm.
so mine is bigger and broader than the business version of that. But ultimately, the through line is legacy.
Mhm. So, is there a business benefit to having a legacy brand?
Well, to me, having a business that aligns with you, right? That aligns with your vision, your desires, your purpose, it just makes it so much easier to exist in it, to talk
Mhm.
about it, to share it with passion. If you don't have a business that you really feel aligned with or feel passionate about, you're going to hold back. You're not going to talk about it. I've talked to so many people who they feel a bit embarrassed by it. They don't know how to talk about their business. They're in this place of like, yeah, I don't love it. I don't love the clients. I don't really love the work, but I kind of fell into it. Like, you're going to hold yourself back, and it will prevent you from building a business that you love and attracting the right clients and all of that. And to me, when you connect with people, I want people to build these human brands, right? Like, we're in
Mhm.
this age of AI, and it's so easy for people to create generic brands, generic
Yeah.
content. And so to me, when you dig deep and create that legacy brand, to me, it connects with people on a human level, on a heart to heart level.
Mhm.
That's what will draw that's how you create chemistry, right? You create chemistry, and it draws in the right people. It makes them choose you over anybody else because you're the only choice. And when you are aligned with that vision and that impact and the legacy you want to create, you will attract the people that will be in alignment with that. And I just said to my husband this morning, like, man, I have the best clients. And
Yeah.
it's I so genuine. I was got a few messages from different clients this morning. I'm like, man, we have the best clients
Yeah.
because they are so aligned with me and me with them. And there is
Mhm.
a beauty in that feeling like you're doing work that has purpose with people that you actually give a crap about and
Yeah.
want to spend time with. On a call with a client last week and I said, I wouldn't want to be anywhere but right here with you right now.
Wow.
And that
Well,
is because I'm doing the work that I'm meant to be doing.
yeah, and I think the way that I interpret what you've just said is that, what a legacy brand does is it aligns you with the right people, which means that your business grows and thrives because they find you because you are in alignment. And I think this is something that we all kind of intrinsically know, but we don't really say out loud a whole lot, which is, like when we are in alignment with who we are, and we're fully owning that, those who really align with us find us and go, "Oh my
Yep.
gosh, I have," because I mean, I feel the same way about my business. I have such incredible clients who work with me every day, and I feel honored to do the work that I do. And my business grows because of that.
Yep.
It's not in spite of it, it's because of it. I'm not in business, like I'm in business as a business person, but I'm in business, and I think you are as well, because we know that the gifts we've been bestowed with for whatever reason in this world can help others. And so we're in a service business. And I truly do believe we serve a greater good. And that greater good is how we actually leave the legacy. And so it is about growing business around that.
Absolutely. And it's enjoying the journey, right?
Yeah.
It's not just doing it for the benefit of others. For me, it's going on adventures and experiencing the fullness of my life and being a thought leader and sharing my ideas and being known for something. And I think that we shy away from that. We're kind of taught from a young age to get in line, to conform, to follow the rules.
Right.
And it's hard to break those and to that fear of judgment or what will people think. And it's amazing what happens when you really do start showing up in that way and sharing your ideas because N nobody's gonna remember you if you just are saying what everybody else is saying or you're blending in. Now, that doesn't mean you need to dye your hair pink like Andrea and I.
Although,
I You can.
okay.
And something came up the other day where somebody said, "Well, this sounds like this is just for extroverts." And I thought, "Oh, that's
Oh
so
gosh, yeah.
fascinating." I'm like, "No." I said, "Maybe the extroverts are gonna have a louder brand, but introverts need a brand just as much, but they need
Well,
a brand that aligns with them."
I so one of the things, so like I love that you just went there. Um, I'm an introvert. I'm a huge introvert. I know people don't believe that, but it's true. Like I am one of those people when I do the tests for all the introverts, I am as far over on the introvert scale as you can get. And yet, I show up with pink hair and wear bright colors, and it's not in spite of my introversion. Introversion is a part of who I am, but my brand is about being bold, about being true to who you truly are. I love color. I absolutely love color. And so that's who I am. And yeah, it does. And I am a thought provoker. I ask really deep questions.
You
You,
do.
through the conversations that we've had, you have easily pegged me um, for who I am, and the brand that you created for me, or that we co-created together, is a representation of my legacy that I'm going to leave in the world.
Yep.
I'm looking at the time and realizing like this time just flies by, and I just
It
saw
does.
a whole bunch of great comments. So all of you
So
who have been
amazing.
have bbeen putting those comments in. Thank you. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks for comments on our hair. Yes, Laura and I didn't plan this. It was funny when we first met. I don't think your hair was pink. I think it had, it had faded. And as soon as you saw me, you were like, "Oh my God, I got to go get my hair done." It was like, this is one of the things that we aligned with. It is one of those things that is part of each of our brands. One small part, but not the only part.
Exactly.
Laura, this has been absolutely amazing. How can our guests keep in touch with you? Where can they find you?
Absolutely. Well, connect with me if you're on LinkedIn. Laura Beauparlant would love to connect with you there. You can check out our website, labcreative.ca, and our social channel is Lab Creative Inc. on all the platforms. So find us wherever you are.
Yeah, and make sure to sign up for Laura's newsletter. She has a fantastic newsletter she sends out, I think probably weekly. I don't even know what the
Yep.
frequency is, but I read them every time they come into my inbox. She's a fantastic writer, as well as a brand strategist. So make sure that you sign up for that as well. Now, for those of you who are still with us, make sure that you join us next week. Actually, we're doing something really special next week. So for many of you, you know that I run something called the Thought Leader Academy, which is a year-long membership program where we help the thought leaders of tomorrow create their thought leadership today. And we are doing our first quarterly talks called Next Gen Narratives. And we will have 15 thought leaders sharing their stories on this virtual stage Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Watch for the event link to go up. We'll have it up later today. And make sure to mark your calendars because you will not want to miss that. We have some absolutely stellar individuals who are going to be sharing stories that will really make you think. And many of them have legacy brands that you need to know about. And then the following week, my guest on Conversations with Thought Leaders is Richard Blundell, who is an amazing thought leader in the area of sustainability and biodiversity. We're coming up on Earth Week, and we know that the earth that we live on, we need to start taking better care of. And so Richard and I will be talking about how we can change little things in our lives and create a bigger impact on the earth around us. And that will be on April 26th at 12:30. Thank you so much for all of you who joined us here today. And those of you who are watching on the replay, I'm Andrea Sampson, the founder of Talk Boutique and the Thought Leader Academy. And thank you once again to my guest, Laura Beauparlant, founder of Lab Creative. Laura, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everybody for being here as well.